Alright guys, Final Fantasy XIV patch 6.3 is right around the corner, which means we have plans to own some noobs and we've got work to do. Before we start, I have to add this disclaimer that while this advice is based on evidence scientific enough to give Nero an extra forehead, I don't have enough gil to purchase a crystal ball, so if Square Enix decides to go rogue on the specific patch I decide to make my first video about it, well, I'll be too busy crying to field any complaints, so here we go! As you may or may not know, we are very likely to get new crafter and gatherer gear in patch 6.3. This would include all new gear for both left side and right side, and all new tools, so we're going to need a lot of in order to have all of our maxed out gear day one. Not only will this allow us to craft all of the new recipes ASAP, but more importantly, we can lord over all the peasants out there who have things like a life or a job. Alright, the first things we're going to look at are the pre-crafts. Here's a list of the quantities I'm personally crafting, which are slight overestimations, so if you think I'm a psychopath, feel free to adjust to your own needs. These estimations are based on the items required last expansion for the corresponding patch. I'm including a Teamcraft list link in the description if you're into that as well. Since we're being frugal though, we want to know what we need to make these, so the real first item on the list is astronomy mats, and we're going to need all of them. Except for mistletoe, which is good because I'm pretty sure I've made enough potions to end up on a list somewhere. So, do your hunt trains, do your roulettes, BTQs, etc. Thankfully the game hands out astronomy tomestones like bad advice in the novice network. It's worth noting that even if you aren't a crafter or gatherer, you probably have astronomy tomes and can sell these bad boys for a pretty penny, so it might be worth it even for you combat Carls out there. Next up is the current legendary nodes. This goes along with the astronomy mats to make the pre-crafts. Astiotomite isn't included in this list because it's doo-doo garbage, and by that I mean it's only used to make the alchast for combat gears, and so it probably isn't going to be used. There is a chance it gets used in a new pre-craft, so it might be a good idea to stock up on some if you have time, but our main focus is going to be on the other pre-crafts. Since the thought of delaying our rise to crafting dominance is completely appalling to consider, it is recommended to craft these pre-crafts before the patch drop. High quality, of course. This brings us to the third item in our list, Materia, and lots of it. In order to properly assert ourselves as the market board alpha, we're going to need pentamelds. It's difficult to know exactly what types of materia we will need most of, since it's based on the gear substats and the requirements of the current recipes. So what I usually do is just take the estimations from the current patch's gear set and collect approximately those amounts. I'll link the balanced gear sets in the video description, but here are the estimations. If you're like me and are convinced that Yoshi P is sneaking materia-shaped explosives into your inventory, I suggest overestimating a bit. As for where to get materia, I usually like to turn in crafter script for crafter materia. Collectibles are pretty low effort to make and the exchange rate isn't bad. For gatherers though, it's a different story. The time nodes and lack of macros make it difficult to watch Netflix instead of watching what I'm doing, and the collectible exchange rate is so hilariously bad you'd have better luck trying to buy something useful with Dogecoin. So there are two ways we can go about getting gatherer materia. First is the tried and true Spirit Bond method, where you go to legendary nodes and build up Spirit Bond to make new materia. That's its own discussion, so I'll link a guide in the video description, or you can search up a guide from someone way smarter than me. This is where the bulk of your materia will probably come from. But a second way was introduced with Island Sanctuary. If you've made it to max rank and have workshops in production, you probably have some extra calories to spend. You can buy gatherer materia this way, and you don't need to pre-buy. You can wait to see specifically what kinds will be in high demand. Finally, the last item in our recipe for world domination is crafter script. Last expansion we needed Sublime Solutions and Slither Sand. Sublime Solutions have a 1-to-1 equivalent in immutable solutions on the current patch, and those were included in the original list of items, so we can stock up on these right away. For Slither Sand, however, we don't have this X-Packs version. And when it came out, Slither Sand cost so much script I'm pretty sure I saw someone trying to trade in a Lalafell, so we're going to need to stock up on white script. As I mentioned earlier, you can get crafter script by turning in collectibles. However, you can only keep 4,000 script of any type at a time on hand, so in order to maximize our degeneracy levels, we will simply craft our desired collectibles and make our retainers carry them for us. If nothing else, the script will almost certainly come in handy when we get new combat gear and food and potions in patch 6.4, so there's not really any risk of waste. And there you have it, my plan for the subjugation of all reasonable crafters and gatherers in Eorzea. Thank you for watching, and enjoy basking in the glory for 24 hours before the bots catch on. See you in 6.3.